James.
Welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bow. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-bow. Welcome everybody to episode, what is this, like 89? Episode 89. Everything
89.
Teams Phone Live. Wow, did we have a busy week or what? And for those of you that are going, something's wrong, you're right, something is wrong. Brandon, what are we missing, Brandon? What are we missing?
Well, I was just laughing while the intro was playing because I think you hit the go live button. Right as I said, I think we're live, James. So I don't know if our audience heard that or not. So it kind of cracked me up. And if they did, then they know what's wrong. We are missing our most loved producer, Bailey, today, who is just so organized. And we're over here like, now what buttons do we click? So
not that we didn't run, 60 episodes on our own, but boy, once you stop.
I'm like, I don't know how to use this platform. I just get on and Bailey does everything for me.
Yeah, it sure is nice. So Bailey, if you're out there listening, we miss you already. But Brandon, I think she's off to get married, huh?
She's off to get married.
To get married. So
congratulations and shout out to her.
Congratulations, Bailey, getting married and all that good stuff. So that's pretty cool. Well, listen, today we're at episode 89. We're going to make this really interactive, really fun because we've got a special guest. Look, I should put that on. I've got a special guest on, James D. Fox. He is joining us for Momentum, and we've got him on for a special reason, Brandon. We're gonna wait to say what that special reason is. But today's episode is about the recap of CommsB Next and really the Microsoft community, which is a bit of a hint as to why James D. Fox is joining us today. So, Brandon, we've got some cleanup to do. So, Brandon, I'm going to leave that to you. Let's see if you've got that down.
I don't even have the script. I just know Bailey says something to the effect of, this show is brought to you and sponsored by Momentum, where we drive business forward. Battery sold separately. Something like that.
All terms and conditions.
You have to sign the terms and conditions, yes. But the show is brought to you by Momentum, sponsored, and we're thankful for that. And then welcome, James, to episode 89, Everything Teams Phone Live.
Glad to be here.
Let's jump. Should we just jump right in?
We should jump right in because we had a really, really cool show. But let's talk about, actually, Brandon or James, why are you here? Why are you special on this show today? And
my mom asks that all the time. Like, why are you here? Actually, I am one of the direct sales folks here at Momentum. I'm a major account executive, and April 1st was my 18-year anniversary. So been around a little while. Some staying power, which in telecom is a very long time to be in one spot. So blessed from that vantage point. But got a chance to go to CommsB Next. It was my first time ever going this past week, and it was awesome. Honestly, I know people had told me how great the show was, but was not prepared for how just amazing it was to be there, and the collaboration and the real community that's built around Microsoft and sharing expertise and ideas and solutions. So it was really great to be there.
Isn't it kind of cool? Like the whole, it's unlike any other trade show, if you will, right? There's so much learning going on. There's so much sharing going on, and the skill set ranges from guys like me that are product driven, right? Marketing, product, that kind of thing. Learning about what's out there and having a session about what's going on and what we're doing, and then obviously to guys like Brandon and Mark Vale and Satish and Louis from Momentum, the technical horsepower, and I keep saying that because the technical horsepower that is at that show is is like crazy. And then if you take it a step further and go the technical horsepower at the dinner that we threw for the third running, third annual
MVP dinner.
MVP, the celebrity MVP dinner. We named it the celebrity MVP dinner because as newcomers, Brandon and I were newcomers at G12 prior to Momentum acquiring G12. We were newcomers to the Microsoft community. We had just become, approved in Operator Connect. We didn't know the Microsoft community, and we had met a few people here and there in the Microsoft community, and they talked about this show, and we took a gamble on doing this show and spending a little bit of money at the show on kind of making having a presence, right? And boy, what a cool thing that was. Looking in, you would see all these people that were like super popular on LinkedIn, right? Like super popular on LinkedIn, and they had this massive community around them. And you're like, what's all this about, right? Like, what are these guys doing about in this space? And so we didn't know anyone, so we thought we'd throw a dinner and we called it the celebrity, because to us, they were celebrities. Like to us, they were like celebrities because they were like super popular on LinkedIn, and we saw it and we were like, man, everybody knows these guys. How does that? It's like you walk down the street like, hey, and that's what it reminded us of. And so we named it the celebrity MVP celebrity dinner. And sure enough, we had a great time that first year, and then the second year, and then this year, I thought it was horrible. Kidding was fantastic. It was like best ever this year, right? Like it was just best ever. James, like, what was your take on the, like, let's say you get the community, you get the sharing, but like, what are some good takeaways from the show for you?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like first off, the brain power in that room at the dinner was simply amazing. I mean, to be a fly on the wall, and I was again very thankful to be invited to come that night and just be around those people and hear what they're working on and how they support the community in the Microsoft world. And obviously, just have fun and enjoy their company, because they are just great people to be around, because they're so giving of their time and their talents and their energy. But that dinner alone, I mean, we just had a blast. And then that was after day one of just tons and tons of great information and sessions. And then I thought, man, could it get any better? And then got a chance to see Brandon's session the following morning. And him and Mark and Matthew just crushed it. They did such a great job of a packed house. And that was the one where I really saw a lot of people file out of the room and talk as they were walking out about, like, I didn't know that you could do those sort of things, or I didn't know it could do X. And seeing a solution come to the table to take those products and tools and put a real solution together, I think was what opened a lot of people's eyes. So Brandon, I just want to say again, man, congratulations on running a top-notch demonstration and session there.
It was Brandon, I will tell you, the Microsoft came up to me, several people came up to me from Microsoft, and they both said that was hands down one of the best technical sessions they had seen, because it was so interactive, because you engage devices and lights and sounds and all sorts of things, and I think you really captured the hearts and minds of the audience.
The cheesy inspirational music.
That's right.
I think I'm still sitting here processing that. I didn't know what to expect going into it. For those listening that didn't have the opportunity to go to CommsV Next, obviously we've talked quite a bit about what my session and Satish's and other sessions were about. But they will eventually be available for public viewing, and I think when they are, we can get that session out for people to watch. But when I first decided to kind of submit a volunteer session, so not a Momentum sponsor, when I remember coming to you, Rick, and saying, "Hey, I know we're sponsoring, I know we're going to have a session, but you're on your own this year. I'm going to go do this other thing." It came from spending this last year working with some customers. I think I mentioned this in the session, one specifically, a GCCI customer who has brought some of the craziest integration challenges, if you will, to us that we've had to go solve for. And so, 3-4 months maybe 5 months before CommsV Next, I had this idea that how cool would it be to show the community what you can actually do with teams. Rick, you know this, and obviously James, you know this. We will go do things in Power Automate. We'll go do these various behind the scenes things to make things work. But I had never touched an algo device. I was very aware of algo. I had never actually touched an algo device until I had this session idea and decided, let's go show it. And then I had to go figure out, how do I get all of this equipment? And shout out to Patrick Higgins, our product guy. Man, he came to the rescue. He was working on our integrator side with Algo, and so he got a hold of Algo. Algo shipped me the gear. Obviously, Poly Audio Codes and Yealink got us some devices as well. And we started Mark Vale and I sat down and started brainstorming, and then we brought Matthew Carlson into it, as we decided, hey, it'd be kind of cool to kind of do this surprise guest. And we spent, Rick, this, there'd be many times you try to call me and I'd
every evening for a long time.
I'd reject your call and say, sorry, I'm brainstorming with the real brains on what to do for this presentation. And all that to say is super humbling to get into the room not knowing what the audience was going to look like, right? There was 5 sessions going on at the same time. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'll be happy if we get like 20 people to show up to this session. And, as the session started, I think I struggled a little bit to even get going, because I was telling Mark Vale and Matthew Carlson, my brain was still processing how packed that room was. And I was almost dumbfounded by it. I'm like, I had no idea that this session was going to be a blowout. And then I'm not
room only.
Yeah, and I'm not really necessarily a person who gets super nervous to present in front of people. It was the pressure of seeing this packed house going, my whole session depends on these demos, because it's just gonna be a bust if I can't show this stuff. So it was, the confidence started to kick in after the first couple demos. I'm like, okay, we got this. I mean, we had tested pre-show, but you still have that butterfly feeling in your stomach of, what if this doesn't work?
Well, like, you can think about it, right? It's like everybody, live demos, you know what happens during live demos, right? Live demos are, often have a glitch, have something go wrong, have something, right?
Well, and we were full confession, we were fine-tuning little settings in the Teams admin center right up 30 minutes before the show, because I didn't have all the equipment, right? Mark Vale brought in a couple phones, Matthew brought in his decked phone setup, so we hadn't like fully tested every scenario. So we were already like, oh, that didn't work, let's change this, and so it ended up working out. And I think the coolest moment for me in that whole session, besides Mark Vale unveiling the Azure AI fax sorting thing, because that was like a cherry on top. That was not planned. That just happened.
Well, he said the night before. He figured it out the night before.
The night before, and it wasn't part of the actual, the presentation deck that we were showing on the projector. But the coolest moment for me was that doorbell moment when that decked phone rang. And then when I demonstrated the Power Automate callback, I literally could hear the audience. It was like this moment of hush, the click, the aha, and then you could hear the whispering start. And I'm like, dang, we nailed that.
Yeah. I listen, I may not have been part of the demo, but I'm going to go steal a little bit of credit for one thing.
Take it, man.
I was in the front row, and I started all the clapping. Like, that's what I was so impressed that I was like, man, that's awesome. And then
everyone clapped. Yeah.
And then after every demo from then on, every little trick that you guys showed from then on, I was like, woo, it's another one. Woo. So it was the only session that had applause. All throughout the hour session, whatever it was. So it was pretty darn awesome.
And I just want to shout out, there's that banter, that fun banter going on between you, Rick, Adam, and I with are we going to get done in an hour? So I'm just going to shout out that, hey, we rehearsed our 87 slides. We, I had to skim over some of it, but we got it done with 1 minute to spare. And it was funny because I said, are there any questions? And, everyone had to get to their next session. But man, and James knows this, we got bombarded with questions.
I'd become be a bouncer and triage for you guys a little bit at the front of the room. But, Brandon, I did want to say, too, the thing that really, I'll say, impressed me the most about that, and this is because I see a little bit of behind the scenes, but is that those weren't just conceptual, I've got an idea. They were a customer or a prospect brought a scenario to the table and said, you guys, how would you solve this problem? And that was the technology way to come up and solve those problems. So, and frankly, what was really kind of cool is somebody that I had met at a user group, Mark, used his scenario that I brought to Mark and said, hey, how would you solve this problem? And he used it, and that guy was in the room.
Oh, that's awesome.
He spun his head around and looked at me, and I was like, gave him the whole head nod. Yep. And so it was really cool to see, and really for that, again, that community on the user group side to spill over to, Comms Be Next and for you guys to come to the table with that.
There's one thing I want to tie in because, I'm generally not a braggadocious person. Again, it was very humbling. I feel very honored. I'm still processing it. Like I still sit here in moments. I have these thoughts like, I can't believe that just happened. But what I was going to say is I was going to tie it back into the community and what Rick was saying earlier about, now 3 shows ago, Rick and I were the new kids on the block trying to figure out how do we break into this community. We discovered Comms Be Next. Again, shout out to those guys. They embraced us with open arms. They welcomed us in. They name dropped where they needed to name drop. They just took us in. And fast forward 3 years to be standing next to the likes of Mark Vail, who obviously runs Commsverse, biggest
team show in the world.
It takes Comms Be Next, and it's just same kind of show, just a bigger turnout. To be able to share the stage with someone like Mark Vail, not just because he's willing to, but because and if he's listening, like I feel like I can call him a friend now, like not just an acquaintance, right? Like I feel like this is a guy I've worked with now for 8-9 months, and he is one class act.
And you said it too on the stage, right? And you're like, I've had the opportunity to work with him for 8 or 9 months now, and you're like, dang, he's one smart dude. Like he's just one smart dude, and he is such a man. He's such a nice guy. Like he's a wonderful human. That's all. That's what it comes down to. He's a wonderful human, and smart as they come, right? And it's really fun to be around that guy. I have we have a Brandon, you and I get to go. We ping him offline, weekends or whatever, not for work, just like shooting the shit. We'll be on WhatsApp as an example, right? And the guy is nearly a scratch golfer, right? I'm going to publicize his handicap just because he's pretty badass golfer, and just amazing technically, an entrepreneur because he's got a platform that he built around the show that he needed to produce, the Commsverse. So he built a platform to go do the show. The guy's just talented. He's just a talented individual. And then he's the nicest guy around. Like he's the nice, you'll see some pictures as this thing starts to unveil. The guy carried me to the to the red carpet. He carried me to the red carpet. I gave him a big hug because he's not letting me live down the at one point I said, hey, Mark, we're going to have a couple other guys on a show real quick. I'm not going to have you on because we need 4 guys. And, these guys, at a moment's notice, these guys are camera ready. And so now I guess I'm not camera ready. I'm not camera ready. Just so you know, I'm camera ready. And so I get this camera ready. So I gave him a giant hug. at the show. I said, I just want to say I'm sorry, Mark, and I gave a big old hug. And, I said, you're an amazing sport. Yeah. Anyway, I do want to
Yeah.
bring it back to the community real quick though, because James, you're here because you started a user group is it Cleveland? Is
Yep,
that where you
Cleveland,
started?
Ohio.
In is that where you're from? Are you from Cleveland? Are you in Cleveland? Is
Yeah,
that
I
where
was
you live?
born here, raised here in Cleveland, Ohio. Went away for college in Chicago, missed home terribly, and moved back here to the north coast of Ohio on little Lake Erie. But Momentum's been doing national sponsorship of the team's user groups community. And so started going to some of them and really, really was impressed with how they format things, the way they're trying to, again, provide that space for the community to come together and share ideas. And when I was at one of the meetings, there isn't one in Cleveland, Ohio, or what wasn't one, I should say. And one of the other chapter organizers, they call them local chapter organizers, said, why don't you start one in Cleveland? You know a lot of people there. You've been in that IT community for a long time. And it hadn't occurred to me. So I started to delve in and figure out what to do and shadow some of these guys that run, groups in Detroit and Columbus and Cincinnati and Milwaukee and Chicago. So I've been all over, all over the place and have tried to pull these ideas together so that I can make the Cleveland group a successful one and valuable for the folks here in Northeast Ohio.
So maybe for the listeners, James, let's talk about how often do you meet? Kind of what is some sample content? What should someone expect from one of these events?
Yep. So Teams User Group is a nonprofit that's come together. Basically, they're a trade association to organize these things. They're all volunteers that come together, board as well. And what they do is they have 3 slide decks that go out quarterly to each of the markets. And those slide decks are an intro for the chapter organizer to explain the user group concept. The second one is called What's New in Microsoft Teams. So it kind of covers a variety of different topics that have come across in the last 3 months since the last user group format. And then the third slide deck is usually a deeper dive topic. So this past quarter was Teams Phone Playbook. The quarter before that was webinar and town halls. And before that was Loop, for instance. So just getting a deeper dive into the topic and spurring conversation. And usually the user group, has some sort of food or something like that and some networking time, give people a chance to come together, ask questions, learn from each other. So that's the formatting, quarterly meetings. I know here in Cleveland, our first one's going to be coming up on May 21st, but if you go to teamsug.com, there's an event tab, and that'll show you all the different events coming up, and that you can register through Eventbrite to show up and be a part of those discussions in those individual cities.
Is your headshot on the UG website now, James?
It is, but it's an old headshot. I've lost some weight, so I need to go get some new photos taken. I saw you. I'm inspired by you, Rick. I saw your photo shoot recently. So I got to go get some fancy sneakers and a sport coat. And
I'll tell you what, that's pretty hilarious. I got so much ribbing. I'll say ribbing to keep it clean. I got so much ribbing offline for that photo shoot. More offline ribbing than online ribbing. It was hilarious. Like I got so many WhatsApp notifications like easy there, fire, in case you don't make it in telecom, maybe you've got a shot, So I got a bunch of ribbing. It was kind of
male model of the year. That's what I say, Rick.
Yeah. Oh,
you're gonna drop Blue Steel on him any day now.
There you go. There you go, buddy. Listen, I was just trying to put it out there. I thought it was the portrait company that put it up. Did a photo shoot for my fiance, and I can't find her book. I had her book around here somewhere. Who launched a book, and I was gonna push it out there. I can't find her book, unfortunately. If she's listening live, she could just come into the room and hand me the book. And so it's about AI contact centers. It's Catherine Weir. Look it up on Amazon. Anyway, so it's the portrait place. So she took her photos for the book, and I was like, well, shoot, I'm not one to be left behind. Like, let me do a photo shoot too. And this was like months ago. This is like 4 months ago, something like that, right? So it's a while back. And they posted a nice photo shoot of her, and I'm like, man, that's awesome. That's really cool. 2 weeks later, then there's me, and I'm like, all right, well, I've got a bigger network on LinkedIn. You can see the portrait company is like, hey, let's push on LinkedIn. This year it seemed like I know the owner, and I think they're making a really focused effort on getting on social media. I'm like, oh, I've got a bunch of people in my network. Let me just push it out. And boy, was it funny. I mean, it just had a lot of flack. Anyway, I'll tell you what, this is pretty cool. Brandon, you probably haven't seen this, but I was in the front row of the session, and I had my trusty Meta glasses with me. And so I recorded bits and pieces of the session. And so what I thought is, let's see if it actually comes out. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work out, but I did upload a session that was pretty cool. Why don't you give us some context, Brandon, on this would be the first sort of highlight that you did. You're holding the mobile phone or the decked phone, and you're about to push the decked phone. Why don't you set the stage for us? What were you showing off? What was the call flow? In fact, if you've got the deck slide, maybe you show the deck slide and kind of explain what were. And by the way, everyone, we're going to show what was great about this whole demo is it's showing how facilities equipment, right? Either door strikers, door alarms, screens that are, directional screens, whatever, flashing things, how you make a facility work with Microsoft Teams so that you can, kind of have some cool things. But then you threw in some crazy Power Automate flows and some cool things. So why don't you set the stage for us? And I'm going to try and hit go on the video here and see if we can see a minute and a half of this thing.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see, since I gave enough demos. I'm not really sure, since I haven't seen the clip that you took. We'll see. Maybe it's we show it and then I set the stage. I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. Let's see if this comes across.
What I've done is I've set up the overhead paging user. You can see the device is registered and healthy in Teams in that top screenshot. I've assigned the phone number. I have not blocked it from PSTN, so if you guys feel like being mean, you can dial that number, and then I'll tell you to stop. And then I've set up I didn't follow my own advice. And then I set up #0 as kind of the short code dialing. Where that becomes interesting, maybe Matt, you can chime in, is we've got this decked phone that's a SIP gateway device. And SIP gateway doesn't necessarily have the ability to search for the named user called Denver overhead paging. You could obviously set the phone number as a speed dial, or sometimes people just will remember that I just need to dial #0 to get out. So, without further ado, #0. You're going to see, actually, before this goes, you're going to see this board's going to light up, and it's going to flash lights, so if you have sensitivity. So we've got multicast coming through the speaker in this display, and then multicast through the phones, and I'm going to hang up and multicast through the ceiling speaker, all simultaneously.
Okay. That was the first one. All right. Yeah. So the stage there was, obviously you can imagine a million use cases there. Whether it's schools, universities, tragically, we all know of, Florida State and Tallahassee, the shooting that just occurred there. Scenarios like that where you need to instantly broadcast lockdowns and get notifications out the door. It's that kind of scenario that I was demonstrating for, the people sitting in the room of, whatever your use case is. The idea of the demonstration was to show that it's not just limited to a speaker in the ceiling. It's not just limited to a display board, and it's not just limited to audio or, picture or flashing light or only limited to the multicast on the phones. It was, you can bring all of this together to ensure that whatever that announcement or that alert is, you can actually reach out and get that notification to the destinations and the environments that you need them to be in.
Pretty cool. I think that's interesting because I think that's what that does. It lets organizations know how they can deliver on replacing their Avaya equipment, their whatever equipment they've got, Cisco, whatever the physical phone system may be. Everyone's always concerned about, oh, the facility devices, the facility, right? And you basically show not only can we replace the devices, but we can take this thing to a whole new level and create some really good workflows around delivering just your basic solution, but then some really good workflows that create some efficiencies for the organization. So I think that was pretty impressive, and I think really everyone in that everyone in the room was really impressed.
Well, and I think you caught it on video. At least I think I heard that, where, once it happened and I was pointing out the multicast piece on the phone, you could hear an individual say, "Wow." Right. And we continually heard that through the session. It was I was saying to Mark and Matt after, like, the feedback, even though it wasn't on purpose, the feedback I was getting from the audience, whether it was me or Mark or Matt presenting, the feedback was enough for us to realize, I don't know why us, right? I don't know why our session, but it was a home run.
Brandon,
It was good.
I felt the real mic drop moment was, I think it was the last scenario that you were demonstrating, and it was where somebody's at a gate, they call in by hitting a button from the gate box, you make a whole bunch of phones ring. Okay, that's great. And then you took it one step further and you had a Power Automate flow in the background that if nobody picked that up, it sent a message to them to be able to click on that would dial right back to the gate and allow them to hit the door strike and enter it. And then you put it one more even on top and added a little extra dose of vitamins, and you said, and then go look in Power BI and start looking at your trends for how many calls are we getting from that door gate phone at what times a day. Oh, it must mean that we get more deliveries between 7 and 8, and we should staff that more appropriately. That was just a really cool way to everybody to say, yeah, I can replace all these old things, but here's how I'll make them even better and enable everybody to do that much better.
Yeah. Let me show real quick. I want to show when we're talking about
the certified list, but you can go Google it. I think it's called Plan for SIP Gateway.
Here's the crowd.
And that should be like the top link that comes up in a search result. You can, what we see with our customers, and maybe I should take a poll, how many of you here have paid?
Pretty cool.
That was us just getting started. I was kind of setting the stage of how to set all this up into Microsoft Teams, if you wanted to do a Teams native approach. And back to your comment, James, that Power Automate was, if people follow me on LinkedIn, this is where the banter started with Rick and Adam Ball. Was I had a 3 a.m. thought of, Power BI just doesn't get enough recognition. And I felt like it might be a nice touch to try to get that into the presentation somewhere, to just drive home that, and Rick, you brought this up. I thought you did a good job in your session of, Teams becoming the hub for your data. And so I thought it played nicely into that, hey, you have all of this data at your fingertips. And we get this all the time. We get asked, James, you know this, you're on the front line. You get asked all the time, how can I see what my data is doing for me? And those types of remote delivery, I think that's an interesting metric that a lot of shipping, manufacturing, warehouse type companies maybe don't even think about. They don't think that, do you track why your deliveries are always postponed to the next day? Like, can you see your trends? And maybe it's as simple as you just need an after hours group to be able to answer that call to open the gate. Now, I have to selfishly admit that scenario came from me personally. I live in a big condo complex. People hit a call box all the time to try to get a hold of me, whether it's Amazon, UPS, or someone visiting. And a lot of times, if I'm not paying attention to my shipment, I get the call to my cell phone and I miss it, and I have no way to call back. I have to hope that they'll try a second time. And so that's where that idea was born is, how many residential, whether it's rentals or ownership, how many properties have these call boxes that you could start to make it so that, hey, it doesn't have to be one direction. It can be, bi-directional, so that you can empower people to, oh crap, let me call back and get them access into the building.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple of really sort of nice demos that I thought were pretty cool. One was that emergency one, and I think I've got that clip also here, Brandon. And then I was going to see if I can get the Mark Vail one on here too at some point during this thing. But let me show this one more time, because this was the really cool one, I thought. Because if you think about I was thinking more like, for me, it was like a TV scene, right? It was like a scene from a movie, right? Like exit, bomb, 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 like exit, right? And I thought that was really cool. And again, our partners, Algo, which we should probably say we've invited now to be part of our Innovation Hub tour that we've got going on. I think it's Chicago, New York, Dallas, and somewhere else. There's like 5 of them coming up in the next however long. And so this one was one of my favorite from your demo. And Mark Vail showed some amazing sort of stuff on the faxing, on the team's fax, the sorting, the AI sorting, which healthcare organizations, if you're listening now, AI sorting, so that you can automatically sort where a fax goes after it's received and forwarded. But let me show this one more clip of you, Brandon, here. And this is, I think, the sirens and all the good stuff that I thought was pretty cool. I'll show that one really quickly, and we'll go from there.
And I have to thank our good friend Scott over at Algo. He sent this package to me, so I didn't have to do all the hard work. So pound 9. I'm gonna get a tone in my ear, and then I'm gonna press 1. And it's also multicasting through the phones, the speaker, and off the board.
All must immediately proceed to the nearest indoor severe weather shelter in an orderly manner.
Now I've got to call back to Embed.
This is a severe weather announcement. A possible severe weather condition is near the facility. All must immediately proceed to the...
I clap for that. That was cool, man. That was awesome.
Thank you.
So there you go. So that was even the clapping. I was like, man, that's cool. It's like reminded me of like Jurassic Park or something, right? It's like, get out of the building.
Yeah, we were joking. Vail and I were joking right before the show started. Like, I had one that was a lockdown. I think it was a lockdown one, like active shooter lockdown type demo, and we were joking that, maybe we shouldn't show that one in case the whole building suddenly hears it and freaks out and someone calls the police. But
man, how relevant is that? Like, I mean, you talk about what just happened, right? It's like, how relevant is that? Like the multicast on the devices, the overhead paging, right? The screens so you can hear, some flashing you could include on those things, right? Like, I mean, it's critical. It's hospitals. It's critical in facility-based organizations. And I thought this was, again, the session was amazing. Now, we do have a preloaded CommsV Next recap video. I don't know what's on here, but I'm going to show that for just a moment. We'll just kind of keep on rolling through. We're reliving this thing. Okay, well, there you go. That was like bocce ball night.
Yeah, the most epic comeback in all bocce history, I think, from you and I, Rick.
That was, you know what, James? Normally I don't play a lot of games. I'm not a real entertaining kind of a guy, No, but first time we played bocce ball, and boy, how exciting was that? Like, it really was. We were down like by 7 or 8 points, and we just basically didn't have some big wins. Didn't do the whole, balls touching 4 points.
Just chipped away at the lead.
And just chipped away at the league, like 6-7 rounds, of going, and it was always down to the last ball. It seemed like, but boy, that was pretty awesome. Having a good time playing bocce ball against your colleagues and with your colleagues. It was quite a good experience. I really enjoyed. I gotta say that was probably one of the most enjoyable sort of game nights that I've played or had the opportunity to go play in a long, long time. I don't do the whole axe throwing things that people do for team building stuff. I think that's corny stuff. But boy, that whole bocce ball stuff was pretty fun. Brandon, kudos to you. Go ahead, take it.
I'm going to give you a hard time since we're live on air. James, first of all, you already know this. I've said this a million times. Rick and I go back like 20 years. We know each other well. We're like, we might as well be like family at this point. Like we probably know things about each other that we shouldn't know, right? That kind of stuff. But one thing about Rick is he gives me such a hard time about when I pick a place, because he's like, man, you always pick these dive bars. He's like, I'm so sick. Like, Rick likes the finer things in life. I'm the person who likes just let me wear jeans and a t-shirt. I just want to show up. I want to feel super relaxed. I want to feel, I'm a Montana boy now in Colorado, and our culture is we don't want any frill, and there's nothing wrong with frill. So we're getting out of the Uber at the Rhine House here in Denver, which is where we're at. It's a German restaurant with these bocce ball courts. And the first thing he says is, man, what kind of dive bar are you taking me to? So it was cool that we got inside, things got going. And then Rick, I do appreciate that you stepped right up and started playing, because you know how it is. A lot of times people are hesitant. They've never played a game. A lot of people are like, I don't know. And I had purposely picked bocce ball. Well, selfishly picked bocce ball because I've been to that Rhine House multiple times for pre-concert happy hour or whatever. And I've played bocce ball other places, but I've never played at Rhine House. And actually, I was talking to our CTO, Mark Marquez, weeks before that, and he's like, "Oh, book it. Just book it." So that's where that idea was born, was let's go do like kind of a pre-show, meaning pre-Comms VNext, as momentum. Let's just kick it off. Let's just have a super chill time and just laugh together. And then let's go into the show and let's get serious. So that's what that was.
We had a great time. So kudos for pulling it off. Typically if I walk into a place and there's not a white tablecloth on the table, I'm out. I'm kidding. But that was but that was pretty cool. I had a really good time, and I think everybody had a great time. So it was awesome. I had a Mark Vail clip teed up for the faxing thing, but it's too big to upload into StreamYard. It's 200 megs. It's a little bit too long there.
Maybe just throw it up on LinkedIn and then we can drop a comment.
Yeah, we'll throw it up. We'll put the post on LinkedIn in there. But since we're talking about teams, we're going to go back to an old staple here. James, you probably haven't seen this, James, and I'm not going to let this thing play all the way through. But this is this is how dedicated we are to Microsoft Teams, and this is how dedicated a musician I am. Right. So this is a couple of years ago. We put a little Microsoft Teams thing together, and I like middle of the night sort of thing, and just kind of like come out and start strumming. Here we go.
All right, so we're gonna sing a little Teams song just for fun. Here we go. Wake up in the morning, sun shining bright. Got my Teams phone ringing, it's a brand new night. The texts and calls all flowing in. The workday has started, let collab begin. Microsoft in hand, we're setting the pace. Productivity is rising in this new workplace. Mobility, texting, it's a new workflow. With Teams and Copilot, we can watch our business grow. From calling kids to 911, Teams keeps it safe for everyone. Add new users to Swift is a win. Efficiency is soaring, let success begin.
That's enough of that.
Voice like an angel.
Yeah.
I think it's time that maybe Commsverse can do it in a pinch this year, but Comms VNext next year, maybe they need to have a musician's room for like in between, like breakout sessions. So because there's actually a lot of musical people within this community.
It's interesting. It is interesting because you think of I never thought of musicians as technical people, right? But I feel like a lot of people that I meet that are musically inclined are very, very smart. And by in our field, you've got engineering people, you've got you have a lot of smart people in our field that are technical, and I think an instrument is a just a tool to them, right? So and they make a tool and they make it whistle. They make it do a really cool. There's a lot of people. I know the guy that runs. I think is he in Cleveland? Man, I can't remember his name. Hold on a second. It's going to come to me. Shoot, boy, I shouldn't say it, but he's got like the guitars hanging in his background. And then you got the guy in Kentucky, right? Daryl. He's got his guitars hanging in his background. I've got guitars in there. But there's quite a few musicians in this space, and they're typically engineering guys that are just really technical and just are really phenomenal sort of musicians. And you're sitting there going, wow, I didn't see that coming.
I think that comes from the creative thinking side of it, right? Because you guys don't know this, but my degree is in biology. I was a microbiologist, right? And I worked in a lab for 8 months and missed people and talking to people and was like, I can't do this. So that's when I got out of that and started into this. And that it's problem solving, right? It's thinking about it in a unique and different way. And I've heard people say that some of the best parts of where good solutions come from aren't thinking about shortcutting to what the right answer is, but what's the second right answer, and being able to push it and challenge it and do it. And again, I just think that's part of why this conference, especially, it's a lot of expert and knowledgeable people, but they're thinking about how do we make things better? How do we improve? And so same thing with the creativity of the music, right?
Mm-hmm. So as we kind of reach that top, I mean, we're getting closer to the top of the hour, James, not to put you on the spot. So if you don't know, that's fine. But outside of this, we spent quite a bit of time talking about the session Mark Vale and I did, but out of that, what were some of the other highlight moments for you at Comms V Next? Because I want to make sure that, we're not just here trying to brag about what what happened and it happens to be Momentum people. I want to make sure that you have opportunity to speak to other experiences you had at Comms V Next.
Yeah, Tom Arbonat and the guys from Landis did a really great session on Teams phone extensibility and what that's going to bring to the contact center space. I thought that was great. Went to Karsten's one on Teams meeting rooms and kind of an overview, and he got to dig down deep into some things about managing endpoints and that sort of stuff. Went to the Slagas session on nonprofits and just learned an awful lot about what's out there and the needs. So felt really invigorated to come back and figure out how I was going to jump into that space and use my time and talents to help. So again, just all around every session I went to, 5 out of 5 stars. I mean, just really great information. Ben did one on Dynamic 911 and setting up 911, and he had some great PowerPoints that I'm looking forward to getting my hands on to help illustrate those things. So again, all the sessions were top notch. I would highly encourage folks to consider attendance next year, especially if you're an end user and you're trying to figure out how do I get these tools to make my business, my organization better.
Yeah, I mean that's I love hearing that because Rick and I 3 years ago, that was us. We walked into the show not knowing what to expect. We walked away going, this is the show to invest in. And then last year we brought in a guy, same thing. He walked away going, oh my goodness, this show is hands down one of the best. And then this year, it just reinforces that Comms V Next, hands down, is one of the best hyper-focused on a community that happens to be Microsoft. And then you walk in there, and it doesn't matter whether you're wearing that account executive sales type hat, a product hat, or an engineering hat. You're going to see and hear things and have conversations that, when you start to think about some of these other bigger shows, that you kind of walk away from feeling like, well, okay, why did I go there?
It's not an echo chamber. You're not just getting the same stuff over and over again and patting each other on the back. It's challenging. It's growth. It's new knowledge and how to leverage it to the fullest possible extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is. It is pretty fantastic. I want to say this though, that everybody that goes there seems to come in with a really open mind, and then they're all, and I don't know who sets their expectations. I know Brandon, you and I set our, everyone that we invite, we set their expectations. Like, hey, this is a community environment. This is like everybody's about sharing. If if you get to the show, like, be an open book, share your knowledge, share your expertise, your experience, like, share it, because that's what this is about. It is about community. It's not about Microsoft Teams only. It's about the community. And dang, everybody there is just the same. It just, everybody goes in there, and if you don't go there with that open mind or that idea, you quickly get there and go, oh, and then you end up conforming, if you will, right? Like, you end up being an open book and sharing,
Or you never come back.
or you never come back. But boy, it is something that's pretty exciting to see, how it kind of grows and stays, kind of has that same sort of approach, right? So pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, from my perspective, it's I'm feeling honored and somewhat maybe nervous is the word to use. I've been offered to come do that same session again now at Commsverse in
Nice.
UK, but I don't get the horsepower of Mark Vale behind me because that's his show, right? He's going to be busy doing his thing for the show. So I'm like, oh man. And I'm not sure that Matt Carlson will be able to make it to UK. So I'm like,
Solopreneur,
I'm
buddy.
gonna have to figure out how to pull this session off.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to be your Vanna White.
Yeah, I might need someone to just hold the handsets for me.
That's right. That's right. That's what I've been training for, Brandon. You saw my LinkedIn. That's what I've been
I
training
saw it. Yeah.
That's why he gets those manicures every week, right?
That's right.
Mhm.
It's because I play guitar, James. Because I play guitar. You gotta have, like, short nails to play guitar. So all right, I think that's pretty much it, guys. I mean, we've wrapped this up. I think we've beat the Commons v-Next horse. But I thought it was pretty cool. Having all these clips handy. I'm going to post the Mark Vale. I'm going to actually post the whole slew of videos that I have that are the technical demos, right? So I'm literally going to post them and say, here's the technical demos from Commons v-Next, courtesy of my Meta glasses. So I think that's gonna be pretty cool to put that out there. But great show. Anything on a technical, real quick before we go? Anything technically that you found was interesting on the Microsoft side, like the extensibility? I think is awesome, guys. I think that's going to change the way contact centers, companies use a contact center solution, that where teams can be embedded in that contact in Salesforce, in ServiceNow, so that you can live in whatever tool you live in. It's going to allow that sort of being, that extensibility is dragging teams into your app, right? And then it's actually dragging it the other way too, Brandon. What is the other way? So you've got teams being dragged into the app, and then what's the other way?
Yeah, so there's I can now bring teams into, say, Salesforce, where I can answer the call right in Salesforce. And then there's the opposite side, and I brought this up in our session, where maybe it's a video doorbell, right? So now I've got a video component. So I obviously showed how I can get a door phone into Teams, and I show how I can get a call back out of Teams to the door phone. But the other side of extensibility, that at least in this use case that I think would be interesting, is when I get that door phone call, it pops that call dialog open with the video feed of the door phone. So that's the other side of the extensibility, is bringing content into the Teams phone call versus the other way around. You're in the content and you're bringing the Teams phone call into it. Yeah, found that's probably, for me, that's the most interesting topic. I did find that there was some discussions around Copilot Studio that, last year there was a lot of buzz around Copilot Studio, but maybe it's my ignorance. I didn't feel like there's a lot of good use cases that were being demonstrated last year. It was just like AI here. We're just going to keep saying AI. And I think this year at Commons v-Next, there was a handful of Copilot Studio sessions that actually brought it down to, the playing field of reality and showed like, oh, and I know our two product people, Patrick and Katie, were in one of the sessions where, Patrick kept looking at me going, here's my use case. He actually came up to me afterwards and he says, can you help me get this use case? He's tired of people. No offense, James. I'm picking on you. I shouldn't say he's tired. He's recognizing that how much him and Katie get asked, can this product be paired with this product and blah, 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 blah. And what's the price and what's the code and and so while we were at the session, I built him a Copilot Studio flow, just to show him like the basis of it. And yeah, like you said, Rick, mind was blown. And so I think you're going to start seeing things start to pop up even internally at Momentum, where we're going to start leaning a lot heavier on these kind of tool sets to make life easier for people like you, James. You got a quick question you need clarity on, you go ask that agent and it gives you what you need instead of waiting for someone to respond to you.
Yeah. I also went to a session on Loop and felt really challenged on how am I going to incorporate this more to streamline my day and my access to information. And probably the other thing that really jumped out at me, guys, and I know we're running quick here, but the live chat that's available for the SMB market and seeing that start to dawn out there. And I felt like this might be that last sort of piece from an omni-channel perspective for the Microsoft stack. So I'm anxious to see where that continues to go and how that continues to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, Brandon, I think that's it, man. We've covered it all. There's a lot of cool things that we experienced there. I was really excited to have that dinner that we had. That was pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It was like 51, probably, the smartest people I've ever been around.
And James.
And James, like that's like me being in the room, James, you and I.
The whole deck of cards and two jokers.
That's right. That's us, buddy. That's us. It was pretty awesome. 52 cards. That was pretty cool. That was a highlight for me, is getting to spend time with all those people, kind of, I'll call it one-on-one, but just being in the room with those folks for a concentrated amount of time. Is pretty dang awesome. So,
Yeah.
All right, everyone, that's a wrap. Brandon, send us out, buddy. Actually, James, you know what? Why don't you send us out? It's episode 89, Everything Teams Phone Live. It's the VCOM, or not the VCOM, not Comms Be Next recap. Why don't you kind of close us out, James?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys, and thanks for joining the show, everybody. We hope you learned something today, and can't wait to have you on next week for episode 90.
That's a wrap, folks.
That's a wrap.